What's up, guys? Today I want to talk about if you fit your macros. I know I've already made a video about this before, but this video will be directed more towards people who don't know what if you fit your macros is, or maybe they do know what it is and they want to start doing it, but they don't know how. My last video, and I'll put a link somewhere over there, my last video about if you fit your macros was more geared towards competitors or aspiring competitors who are already using flexible dieting or if you fit your macros. And I just wanted to kind of point out some of the shortcomings and get into a little more specifics about the function of each macronutrient in your body. So if you want to check that out, make sure to check that out. And I will say, if you haven't seen my beginner basics video, you should probably watch that now before finishing this video, because it's not going to make a whole lot of sense to you if you don't understand like energy balance, caloric surplus, caloric deficit, stuff like that. That being said, let's get right into it. So the big question is, what is if you fit your macros, or flexible dieting? The terms are kind of synonymous. Flexible dieting is a method of dieting based on tracking macronutrients. The idea is that you get all of your calories throughout the entire day. Your entire calorie intake is from macronutrients, because macronutrients are the nutrients that provide your body with calories. So you have protein, carbs, and fat. Protein is 4 calories per gram, carbs are 4 calories per gram, and fat is 9 calories per gram. I will say that you can get calories from alcohol, but those calories are sort of useless in terms of developing your physique, so we don't count that as a macronutrient. And the idea of tracking macros, it is not meant to imply that your micronutrients aren't important. But the idea with micronutrients is that a lot of your micronutrients are sort of self-regulated. So if you go over, for example, like a B vitamin, any of the B vitamins, if you are in a huge surplus over your daily recommended value, B vitamins are water soluble, so you will just pee them out. So a lot of things work like that, and also we're not disregarding micronutrients. You still do need to get your minimum for the day every single day. In order to stay healthy, in order to have proper body function. So if you're going to do if you fit your macros, be sure that you're not vitamin deficient or mineral deficient, and also ensure that you're getting your minimum for fiber. That being said, any diet that you do, because a lot of people are asking about different diets, like you have things like Atkins, I don't know, paleo, stuff like that. And I'm not saying that other diets don't work, because you can lose weight or gain weight, whatever your goal is, based on another diet. But the reason that other diets work, it's like the same principles as if you fit your macros. If you want to gain weight, that means you're going to have to maintain a caloric surplus. And if you want to lose weight, you have to maintain a caloric deficit. And that's not even something that you can really argue. That's just the way that things work. The thing I will say in defense of if you fit your macros, or sort of against other diets, is that if you're not accounting for macronutrient distribution, then there's no way to guarantee or to optimize. Let's say that if you're losing weight, there's no way to guarantee that most of that weight lost is fat instead of muscle. And if you're gaining weight, there's no way to ensure that most of that weight lost or weight gained is muscle instead of fat. Granted, either way, if you gain weight, you're going to gain a little bit of fat, and if you lose weight, you're going to lose a bit of muscle. But if you track your macronutrients, you should be able to minimize that, assuming that your training is good. So if you fit your macros, basically the way it works is that each individual, based on their goals for their physique, whether you're trying to get bigger or lose weight, diet down, whatever you want to call it, you will have a certain number of calories you're supposed to be eating. And within that calorie number, you will have a certain number of grams of protein, grams of carbs, and grams of fat. And we'll get into how to figure that out a little bit later. But for now, I just wanted to go over how to actually track those numbers, because you know each gram of protein is 4 calories, each gram of carbs is 4, each gram of fat is 9. So if you know your numbers in terms of grams, then you can always just calculate calories from that. And honestly, as long as you know your actual grams for each macronutrient, you don't really need to know how many calories you're taking in. Well, the things that you're going to need in order to track macros are, one is you're going to need a food scale. This is just what I use. I like this because it's really thin, real small. It's about the size of my head. But yeah, I like this because I'm a college student, so when I go to campus, I throw this in my backpack, and then if I eat right after class, I can have this with me. It doesn't take a whole lot of space in my backpack. It's not very heavy. And I can just go to the dining hall with this and weigh my food. And then you might want a calculator if you're lazy, you don't want to do addition and subtraction. And also you want something to keep your numbers on, so either like a notepad app on your phone, or you could actually carry an actual notepad and pen, or what I do is I have a whiteboard over here, and that whiteboard actually has my numbers on it. Moving on, how do you track your macros? So obviously you need to be counting your macronutrients, like the grams of each one, but in order to do that, there's two different ways. One is if you're eating a food that's pre-packaged or has a nutrition label, you can look at that. So look at this. This is a Nature Valley bar box, just because I have it. But here you see on every label you have a serving size. If it's something that's pre-packaged like granola bars, you can't really weigh it because, I mean, what are you gonna do if it has like an extra gram of granola bar? You're not gonna throw that extra gram away, I don't think. So yeah, if it's something pre-packaged like this, you can just eat the whole serving, which is 2 bars, which are in one package. But if it's something like, I don't know, maybe you're eating almonds, and it says the serving size is 28 grams, you should actually probably weigh your almonds rather than counting them. Because when it comes to measuring your food, measuring in terms of mass is almost always going to be more accurate than measuring in terms of volume. But back to the nutrition label, you have your serving size, so make sure you follow your serving size. And then this is the number of grams of protein per serving, carbs per serving, and fat. And those are the ones that you're mostly worried about. And then the other thing, if you're eating foods that don't have labels, or if you're cooking food or whatever, you're going to have to weigh your ingredients or whatever you're eating. And so that's what you need your food scale for. But the idea is that you're going to weigh it, and then you're going to have to find the nutritional information for that food somewhere. So let's say you're eating grilled chicken breast. The way that I would recommend doing it is you can either download MyFitnessPal, or you can go online and use nutritiondata.self.com. I'll put a link to that somewhere here. I don't know, over here somewhere. But I would actually recommend nutritiondata.self.com over MyFitnessPal, just because MyFitnessPal is good, especially because you can have it on your phone. But the shortcoming is that anybody can submit an entry to MyFitnessPal, so it's not necessarily as reliable. Whereas nutritiondata.self.com only has 1 entry per food, and it's generally very, very accurate. The other thing about that website is that I'm pretty sure you can actually just enter an amount in terms of weight, and they will tell you the nutrition information for that amount of food. So like if for example you're going to cook 100 grams of rice weighed dry, you can actually just enter in 100 grams of rice, and then it'll give you the nutrition for that. So yeah, it's pretty simple. To track macros, you're going to either look at the label or weigh your food. And then it's simple calculation, right? The other thing is that the way that I keep track of my macros for the day is, you see, like I said on that board, or whatever you're writing it on, at the very beginning on the top left would be here for you guys. Anyway, you'll write your starting numbers for the day on the top left. So it'll be, for me, I write protein, and then I write carbs, and I write fat. So it'll go 240 grams of protein, 510 grams of carbs, and 65 grams of fat. That's how I do it. You don't have to put it in that order, but just write them down, and then draw a line, and then next to that, whenever you eat something, you're going to do some subtraction. So let's say you ate 20 grams of protein, whatever it was. You're going to subtract 20 from 240, you're going to have 220 here, and then draw a line, however many carbs you have left, how much fat you have left. And then so every single time you're going to be doing subtraction and writing your new numbers next to that. And then at the end of the day, your goal is to be near 0, 0, 0 for all of them. And you can generally give yourself a range. For me, I try to stay as close to the actual numbers as I can. But for a lot of off-season bodybuilders and most recreational athletes, you could probably get away with a range, like a pretty large range. But I would recommend trying to hit your numbers as close as you can, just for the sake of consistency. Alright guys, so at this point you should know what IIFYM macros is, and you should know how to track your macros. But the question that remains is, where do you start, right? And that's sort of dependent on what your goals for your physique are. But regardless of what you want to do, we'll get into that a little later, you're going to need to figure out what your maintenance calories are. So your maintenance calories are just the number of calories that you need to consume in order to maintain your current weight. And the way that I have people figure that out is, first thing, obviously get a scale, get an accurate scale, don't be cheap. And then you're going to weigh yourself every single day, preferably in the morning at the same time, because if you weigh yourself in the morning, you don't have any food or water in you yet, so you shouldn't have too many variables affecting your weigh-ins. And then weigh yourself for a few days in a row, maybe like 3 to 5 days, and take an average, or 3 to 5 days, and just hope, like, ideally you'll be around the same weight every single day, right? So let's say that you weigh yourself for 5 days and you're around 160 pounds every single day. Then that's good. That means that whatever amount of food that you've been eating, that's around your maintenance calories. So in order to figure out how many calories you were eating though in those days, what we're going to do from there is have you start tracking your macros. So you're not going to change the way you eat yet. You're just going to eat normally. The only difference is going to be that you're going to be actually weighing your food, measuring your food, and looking at your serving sizes. So once you know that you're maintaining weight, I would say, yeah, track your macros for maybe, again, 3 to 5 days. So you're going to have, every single day you can have your numbers, and then you're going to do the multiplication. So if you're taking your number for protein, multiply that by 4 calories per gram, and then for carbs, multiply that by 4 calories per gram, and then fat, multiply that by 9 calories per gram. And then if you do the multiplication and then you add all three together, you'll have your total calories for that day. And you're going to do that for 3 to 5 days, and then add all those together and take an average. And whatever your average calories were throughout that 3 to 5 day period, that's going to be your estimated maintenance calories. So from there, once you know your maintenance calories, you can kind of decide where you want to go in terms of your physique. If you want to maintain weight, obviously you're going to be eating the same amount of calories that you already are. You're just going to screw with your macronutrient distribution. If you want to gain weight, you're going to be in a caloric surplus. If you want to lose weight, you're going to maintain a caloric deficit. As far as gaining weight goes, I would say that you would want to be in a 200 to 300 calorie surplus every day, and that would be kind of high, because generally 3,500 calories of surplus or deficit either way is going to be a pound of mass. So let's say if you're in a 200 calorie surplus every single day, and you do that for 18 days, that's going to be 3,600 calories of surplus altogether, and that'll be about a pound of mass. So in 18 days, you'll have gained a pound. And now, guys, I realize that for most of you, that sounds like really, really terrible, slow progress, but you have to understand that as a natural athlete, and I'm assuming that you're natural, if not, this doesn't really apply to you, but as a natural athlete, you're not going to gain a whole lot of weight, or you're not going to gain a whole lot of lean mass in a year. Like, for example, for myself, I don't expect to gain more than like 5 pounds of stage weight in a year, and even 5 pounds, that would be pretty crazy. The only exception is when you're first starting out, like if you've never trained or you've never dieted correctly before, then your potential to gain or lose fat is incredibly high. So you can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time when you first start for a pretty long period of time. So if you're just starting out, be sure to take advantage of that, but recognize that there is a point when that won't be possible anymore, and you're going to have to sort of dial it back a little bit and be more realistic with your numbers. So like I said, if you're trying to gain weight, I would recommend a 200 to 300 calorie surplus every single day. Just keep in mind, guys, that as you get heavier, your maintenance calories are actually going to go up, so you're going to have to continue to adjust. And the way that you would do that is just keep track of your weight every single day, and as long as you're gaining weight at the rate that you expect to, then your calories are probably good. But if you at some point sort of taper off and you stop losing weight, then obviously bump your calories up a little bit. And then the other way around for losing weight, I would say same thing applies. I mean, I would shoot for like maybe a 300 calorie deficit every single day. You won't lose weight super fast that way, but either way, whether you're gaining weight or losing weight, the faster you do it, generally is going to produce worse results, just because if you gain weight really fast, yeah, you'll get really big, but most of the weight that you gain, or a lot of weight that you gain, is going to be fat. And if you lose weight really fast, yes, you're going to get really small, but a lot of the weight that you lose is going to be muscle, and not a lot of it is going to be fat. So it's sort of a give and take. If you have the patience to do it slowly, that's really great, because you can sort of optimize your results. But realistically, most people want to be, they want to change their bodies really quickly. And I understand that, but just be smart about it, guys. Don't do anything too extreme, because it's going to make your results worse. Then the other thing, and the last thing, I guess, is where do you set your numbers, right? Because at this point, you should understand where your calories should be at in terms of deficit or surplus, how many calories over, how many calories under. And the only thing that's really left is how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs, and how many grams of fat should you be eating, right? If you want to make it really, really simple, I would say you can go ahead and start yourself off at 30% of your calories from protein, 50% from carbs, and 20% from fat. And really, like, most people could be just fine starting off at that and keeping it there for a really long time. In fact, a lot of people that I work with, I start them off at that ratio, and it works really well. But at some point, you're going to have to start to recognize how your physique is changing and change your macros based on that. Another way that I would recommend doing it, which is probably a little bit better for most people, especially people that haven't been doing this for a while, is I would recommend at least a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And if you're in a deficit, if you're dieting down, that need is going to go up a little bit more. And obviously, if you're training really hard, really often, that need is going to go up a little bit more as well. So for me, right now, I'm like 175-ish pounds, maybe 176. My protein number's at 240, which I realize that's pretty high. I just wouldn't want anybody to go, I'd say the upper limit of your protein number would be, I mean, you should never be like 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. You can if you want, but it's not necessary, and it's probably not that good for you. Like, it's not one of those cases where more is better. And then, as far as your fats go, your fats are sort of hard to figure out because the effect on your body sort of varies between different people. Because fats are needed to produce hormones, and as long as you have enough fat in your body to properly absorb your vitamins and minerals and produce healthy hormone levels, then that amount of fat is perfectly fine. You don't want to go over that amount by too much, just because too much fat is not good for your body. But yeah, see, that's the one that I'd say is pretty hard to figure out. But for example, this is just to give you guys sort of a ballpark figure. Somebody like me, my numbers right now are 240 protein, 510 carbs, and 65 fat. That amount of fat might be a little bit low for me right now, so I'm gradually bringing it up. But keep in mind, guys, that I am reverse dieting because I just did finish my contest season. But yeah, like I said, if you guys really don't know where to start your fat, I would say start at around 20% of your caloric intake, maybe a little bit lower. And then your protein should be at least 1 pound per gram of body weight, or 1 gram per pound of body weight, sorry. Possibly 1.5 depending on your training, and depending if you're in a deficit. And then the rest of your calories can come from carbs. In fact, I would say, guys, you want your carbs as high as you can have them at all times. Obviously, don't cut your protein, don't cut your fat, just so you can have more carbs. But the idea of having your carbs high is that you want your muscles to be full of glycogen, right? So they look full, so they can perform. And you also need carbs because carbs are really your primary source of energy. Any source of carbs is going to be converted into glucose, and glucose can be floating around in your bloodstream, and then your body uses glucose to produce energy. So if you haven't, or if you want to know more about that, you can watch my other IIFYM macros video. But most of the feedback that I got from that video is that it was really confusing for most people. So I hope this helped you out. I made it as simple as I could, but this should be a pretty good starting point for most of you guys that want to start tracking macros. If you know anybody that need or could benefit from watching this video, go ahead and share it for me. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or inbox me, or you can inbox me on Facebook or whatever. And don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. I hope this helped, guys. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.